I'm on my phone. Can you send a message? I can't do this if possible. Technical difficulty.
I'm going to resume recording, so we should be good. Okay. Thanks everyone for hopping on today's training. My name is Rebecca. I'm here with OpenGov. I'm putting everyone on mute just to make it a little bit easier to hear everything. Just keep in mind, just like Jackie mentioned as well, I think for the team, we're recording this session and you'll have access to it after we finish. So you'll be able to kind of reference it later, just something to kind of keep in mind. You'll be able to also, the recording will have my video or my screen that I'm sharing will be recorded as well. So yesterday we met with everyone who was set as system administrators, and today we're focusing on training those that are involved with inspections and just explaining kind of how the software works and how inspections will work in terms of scheduling and also recording, whether they've passed or failed certain types of inspections and recording that in the system. So that's our focus for today. I will be talking a lot, so we're gonna try to take a break midway through. We blocked out 2 hours. I don't expect us to use the full 2 hours, but it's there if needed, if there's questions. So the goal really is for me to go through the training. If you have any questions, the easiest way, just because there's so many people on the call, is to put a question into the chat. On Zoom, there should be an option kind of, if you hover over your Zoom at the bottom right, there should be an option or bottom center sometimes, depending on what you're using. There should be an option for you to chat in a question. I'll try to check those periodically if I catch it while I'm going through the training. If not, we'll make sure to go through those questions once we finish up kind of the main points I want to go over. If you feel like I'm going too fast or I'm not catching some urgent questions from the chat, feel free to unmute yourself and just let me know. We just don't want to have everybody unmuted because then it just gets it's difficult to hear everything. So I will try to give us a break in between, by the way, so that you guys get a little bit of a quick break as well. Okay. All right. So what we're looking at right now is this is the employee login of the site. The way to get to the site is Monroe County in.viewpointcloud.io. So this is where really all county employees are going to be living in the most. I did want to just reference what the public facing side looks like, just so you guys get an idea. We're going to be spending the training talking about the employee side the whole time because that's what you guys are dealing with. But I wanted to just point out what the public side looks like just so that you're familiar. They basically, the difference in the public facing side, this is where all applicants will apply for permits and licensing applications. It will be, the site is Monroe County in.viewpointcloud.com. So what they would do first is they would choose which department that they're looking under. And I believe also, just so you guys understand, Jackie will be working with the county's team to make sure that this website is provided as a link on the current county website so people know where they can go to apply. They would then click on the department. I think most of the people on the call, I think, are mostly building today. You can see when they click on building, it gives some basic information about the building department. And I think this is probably provided to Jackie in conjunction with Jim. And then once the applicants scroll down, they'll see all the different types of applications that they can apply for. And each one has a description, basically. And they also have a note that says that they can call the building department if they have any questions before they apply. So each of these applications has a bit of a description. And then the public would, choose whichever one that applies. Maybe it's the commercial demolition permit. And then the building team also put in a description so that once someone chooses a specific application, they're going to see some notes about what the fees are as well. So I'll click into a few other ones just so you guys can see the residential. It breaks down some links and also just explaining them what other required documents they need. So I recommend this week, if you get the chance to browse through the site, let me actually, through our chat, I'm going to put in both links so that you can bookmark it on your computer just to make it easy. Public portal. I'd recommend if you guys get the chance to browse around on the public portal, just to kind of see what's out there, see if you have any questions. It's helpful, I think, for the team just to understand what the public sees. You don't have to have this memorized or know exactly where everything is, but it's good to kind of get a visual of what they see. Once they choose a specific application, they can then click apply online and it'll take them through specific questions where we're asking them about square footage, what type of work they're doing, who's involved in it, and much more. And that's what we've been working on with Jim, Wendy, Misty, and Jackie for the past few weeks. So that's basically in a nutshell just the public portal side. We're going to spend all of our time in the employee portal, but I just wanted to point that out so you guys get a quick glance into what that looks like. Right away when you log in, you will be prompted to see the inbox page. That's the first page that I'll have you see. So hopefully everyone on this call, if you haven't already, you should all be set up as users in the site. If you haven't yet, please let Jackie know and she'll set you up accordingly. Just want to make sure that everyone's set up. Once you log in, you will be directed to the inbox page. And for example, I'm logged into my test account, which is named Tony Tester. You can see that it shows I have 14 inbox tasks to look at. Depending on who signed in, everyone's going to see a different view. So I may see 14, somebody else may see 2, somebody else may see 20. When you're logged in, it's specific to you as a user. So it's specific to what's been assigned to you. So we're going to come back to the inbox page a little bit later, but I want to just point out that anytime you log in, this is the first thing that you'll see. I'll come back to it a little bit and just kind of explain it a bit more. What I want to go through is some of the buttons here at the top right, and then we'll kind of move over here to the left and get more specific in terms of inspections and how that works. But it's really just to kind of explain some of these buttons so that you know what they mean, even if you won't really need to be clicking on them too much. So to start off, when we're looking at the top right where it says not live, it's specifying that because the county's not live on the software yet. That's happening next Tuesday. So when the county goes live, that'll just be switched over. This is just a reminder letting county staff know that we're not actually taking real applications yet. Right now is the setup and testing period that we've been going through. If you were to click this circle icon at the top right of your screen, each user, this really just speaks to what your user profile is. For the most part, you're really not going to be clicking on this that much. You only need to click it if like your county email changes for whatever reason, or if you want to change like your profile image. If I click into user profile right now, it's just a picture of a dog. You could put a picture of yourself. Just keep in mind that whatever image you put here is visible to the rest of other county staff. So just keep that in mind, that it will pop up as you get assigned to things. If you put an image here, it'll pop up. By default, the system actually just puts your initials. So like, it'll just put your initials in the circle. You could put an image if you'd like, but again, just know that that will be seen by everyone else. For the most part, really, like I said, you won't really be clicking into this unless you need to change your email, or if you're on a shared computer and you need to log out. That's how you would do. So you'd click on the circle icon with like your profile and log out if needed. The next thing that I want to point out is this question mark, especially once you go live on the software. So next week when you go live, if there's any technical issues that come up, you'll want to reach out to our support team. Depending on the type of issue that you come across, if it's a quick question with just like, I need help finding something, or I don't know where something is, or I'm a little bit confused with what something means, you'd want to click chat with support and they'll connect you with someone to chat quickly. The other kind of option you see here for OpenGov Help, I'm going to click into it and then explain a little bit more about what it means. So with OpenGov Help, this is really what you'd want to click on if there's a more complicated question that you have. So if there's something that you are confused about what the best workaround is, or if you think there is a bug in the system for whatever reason, you'll want to click on that question bubble here, OpenGov Help, and you'll want to click Submit a Request. This is the best way for our support team to help you kind of track things. Like, so you can say, I need help, something's wrong, and explain basically what's going on and how severe that issue is. Is it that, something looks like it's spelled incorrectly, that's facing the public, or is there something that's low priority, or is the system not working at all? It's important to just kind of understand that you have that ability to submit a request as needed. Another thing that comes in with the OpenGov help page is you can also look at some different help articles. The platform that you guys are using under OpenGov is called Citizen Services. That's where all like the permitting and licensing module is under. So if you're interested, you can click into some of these different help articles to learn a little bit more about some different articles. You can click into them and kind of see some of the different screenshots to help you get there a little bit faster. It's really just a place you can think of OpenGov Help as. It's a resource center, which it says up at the top, but it's a place where you can submit, that you need help or something doesn't seem to be working as expected. Or if you're interested, you can browse through some of the help articles we have. You can also search up here at the top. If you're interested in just reading some more things or you want to learn a little bit more about how things are set up, you don't have to by any means, but that's a resource that's there. So I think it's important to kind of understand, and it may be something where in the coming weeks you're a little bit more curious into understanding how the software works a little bit more. And if so, you definitely want to utilize clicking on OpenGov Help, which will link you over to the Resource Center, and you'll click on Citizen Services just to see some of these different help articles. And there's kind of something for everything if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it. So that's where you can access that. The next thing I want to point out here is, so you'll see that there's a bell icon at the top right with a 3 and it's in red. What this is telling me as a user is that I have 3 notifications to look at. So it's telling me that Jackie mentioned me in a comment, Tina added an attachment to something I was working on. So there's some different notifications that you guys can receive. If you clicked on each one of them, maybe I want to see, that Jackie mentioned me in a comment. If I click into it, it's going to take me directly to that comment that Jackie has left me. So assuming, let's say I've looked through all my comments, I'm going to click mark all as read, and it's going to have that go away. I'm going to click into the settings and talk to you about this a little bit more. So with the notifications, there's 2 types of notifications, and the goal is for it to be helpful and not annoying. By default in the system, all notifications are turned on. Browser notifications refers to this little bell icon once you're logged into the site, and then email would just be that you'd get an email letting you know that you've been assigned to something. So all of these options that you see over here, these are things that right now we have turned on, where all of these things that you could get notified about. If a staff member tags you in a comment, if an applicant's uploaded new site plans or new attachments, if you've been scheduled for an inspection or something like that. So it just kind of depends on what you're interested in. I would recommend to start off, and you probably have already gotten a bunch of notifications as the team's been testing for the past few weeks. I'd recommend kind of keeping them all on, and then kind of gradually taking them off as you see like what you find more useful or what's important to you. I would say if you're in the system a lot, sometimes if people are in the system a lot, they like turning off email notifications, because if they're in it so often, they don't want to get like 30 emails a day, and they just kind of rely on knowing that they're going to log in every day and they're gonna refer to the bell icon, that this browser notification. On the flip side, if you're somebody who's not really going to be in the system that often, maybe once a week or so, it makes probably sense that you want to have the email notifications turned on to remind you to, hey, you need to remember to go into the system because someone's assigned something special to you to work on, or someone's asked you about something directly in the system. So it's kind of a balance. I would say keep it all on for now and then take away as you need, because the goal, like I said, is for it to be helpful. And because we want to remind you of things that you're set to work on, but we also don't want it to feel like you're getting so many that you don't even really pay attention to them. So it's kind of that balance. Just a reminder, when you change your settings for notifications, it will only change for you. So it won't change for the whole team. It's specific just to you as a user in our system. It's just something important to point out. So this is just something to be aware of if you're wondering kind of why this racks up at the top. And if you accidentally mark something as red and you want to change it, I can change this back. If I hover over, I can click mark notifications unread, so that it kind of shows me that if I want to be reminded to that I don't have time to look into this until later, that's a possibility. Scrolling over to the top center of the page, this is what we call the global search bar. It's a search bar basically to help you get to what you're looking for a little bit quicker. So you can search by address, assessor parcel number. You can search by the applicant's name, project name. You can also search by like their applicant email address if that's the case. And most importantly, you can search by what we call record ID. So a record ID, you guys can think of it as an application or a permit number, and it's that number that's associated with the specific application. So I think we have a few test ones that we've kind of played around with. So you can see I just knew that there's a right of way complaint that was assigned this record number. So if I type it up here at the top, it'll take me there, I can click on it, and it'll take me directly to this abandoned vehicle right of way complaint. You can also look up different addresses. If there's something that applies that you're specifically looking for, maybe I'm looking for this 2843 North Dunn Street. I can also look up by the assessor parcel number to get there. It'll take me to that location record. You can search by the applicant name that's coming through. So just kind of probably used the most by the front office when they're getting called and people coming to the front desk, but helpful for you guys to know if you wanted to reference an inspection that you've done last week and you remembered the name and you just wanted to remember like what happened with that one, and you remembered the name of the applicant or the address you were working on, you can type it into the search bar and get there a bit quicker. I want to just pause right now before I move over to the left side panel. Any questions about these initial buttons kind of at the top right and top center from the team? Okay, I'm going to keep going then. All right, so moving over here to the left, what I'm going to do actually is we're not actually going to go through the explore page too much, but I'm going to click on one of these applications that the team's been testing with. So let's click on this one, this commercial building one that it's been tested for Tim Hansen. So what we're looking at right now is we're looking at a specific record page. You can think of it as kind of like, this is the file that's telling you everything you need to know about this application that's been submitted. Up here at the top left, we can see this is the record ID. So this is the number that's been assigned to the system. So another kind of quick cheat for you to understand is all the commercial building permits will have a C at the front. It'll have the year, and then it'll have a sequential number of just like, so if C216 is the last commercial building permit we got in, C217 would be next. And then for the following year, it'd be C22. So this has kind of been preset by the building team choosing this numbering pattern. So just something to keep in mind. I can't remember the exact word for residential building permit, but the prefix might be like R21-1 or something like that. So that's the first thing to kind of call out is we're on the record page. It shows the record ID. It's telling you what type of application it is. In our system, you'll hear us refer to application types as record types often. If this was associated with a project, you would see it here. A project basically allows for you to say that multiple applications are really connected to one big project, and a project just works as a file folder for a bunch of different files to tell you that they're related. So because it says add to a project, this is telling me it's not related to any project, it's standalone. And I want to go through basically what all of these things mean on the record page so you have a better understanding as you're kind of navigating towards things. So the first thing you'll see on the record page that we're like set on is the details page. It shows what time the application was submitted. It was submitted January 7th. And then you'll see over here on the right, this actually shows all of the questions that the applicant filled out. So if you see if I hover over, some of them are check boxes. Some of them seem to be something that people can fill in. Some are actually drop down questions where we've given people the option to choose between different things. So this is what we worked pretty closely based on like the current applications that you guys are using, working pretty closely with Jim, Wendy, and Misty, just to make sure we've kind of incorporated everything. You see there's questions about project cost, total square footage, contractor name. So depending on each record type, for the commercial building, there's going to be specific questions that you may be asking of all building applications, and there are maybe specific things that only apply to commercial application that are specific questions that you wouldn't see on the residential side. For example, I wouldn't assume that you'd see all of these options here for type of work if it was a residential building permit. So what this page is showing you is it's showing you how the applicant filled this all out. Once they fill all of this out, they have to sign off that this is completed to their best of their ability. And once they sign off, they cannot make any edits. It's kind of locked in place. However, staff can make edits. So if they reach out to the front desk and they let, Wendy and Misty know that they've made a mistake, and actually instead of being multifamily with commercial, this is actually commercial industrial. And let's say one of the front desk staffers mark it as save. What happens is it'll change it moving forward, and then if we click into the activity feed, it will show that tone, like the user, I'm Tony Tester. Tony Tester changed it from multifamily with commercial to commercial industrial. So we'll keep track of it as well as if you were to click into these three dots at the top right, click print original record. Let's say that Wendy looked at it and they just filled it out completely wrong. It doesn't make sense. And she ended up calling them and talking them through how to fix it. And there were a bunch of changes made. You can look at the activity feed to see all the changes, or you could also click print original record to just see what's that original application that they submitted, and then just print record to also see, what's the current state of everything that we've made edits to. So that will be important, especially kind of in the initial building intake review. If anything's confusing or it doesn't seem right, the team will follow up with them just to make sure to clarify, the square footage seems off for this type of job. We just want to check with that. Staff has the ability to basically leave comments for the applicant on each of these workflow steps, which we'll get to in a bit. They can leave comments and ask them, hey, the square footage seems off. Can you confirm that it's accurate? And so that will be really important. And you can see if you hover over any of these things as a staff member, they can make updates to it and sign off. You'll also see here that once we kind of scroll down, there's some fields that have this lock icon that says staff use. So this is basically for staff to use. So the details page speaks to what the form that the public fills out. And also there's some staff sections that help determine other things that happen, whether you're confirming the square footage and making sure that staff is putting the correct square footage, whether staff is letting us know if a county ILP is required, if conditional certificate of occupancy is required or not. There's different things that staff may use, especially on the planning side, to fill out that will better set up this application and process it correctly. That's kind of the first thing to kind of look at with the details page. Another thing that you'll see is on the attachment side, this is where they will submit a bunch of attachments that we've required. So on a commercial building permit, for example, we've required that they submit a construction plan, a site plan, and then we have some other things that we're asking for as well. So if it's relevant for you when you're doing your inspection and you want to see what their site plans look like or their construction plans, you can click into attachments and you can download it. And make sure that it looks right. If you have any questions, if they need to, for whatever reason you think that there needs to be edits that take place, you can click into each one of these and take a look. Something important to think about too is the attachment. So even though the applicant, once they fill out the form, that's locked in place and they can't change it, they have to tell staff that something needs to be changed. They have the ability to attach new attachments at any time, which is super useful, especially if you ask them to edit something and give you additional information. They can always attach other files, and also staff has the ability to upload files to share with them too. So if you have edits or comment letters that you need to share with them, you can do so as well. So it's kind of the attachments really is a place for both staff and the public to upload files to one another, depending on what you need. Going down here over here to activity feed, this is what we I already jumped to earlier, but this shows you all of the activity with that particular application. If you have any questions or you're just wondering why something changed, you want reference to it, you can see it on the activity feed. The applicant and the question from Misty. Misty, do you mind typing in your question? Oh, go ahead. Or you can say it. Go ahead.
Is that up under active or attachments? Is that where our plan reviewers will attach their plan review?
Mm-hmm.
Could you possibly show them how to do that?
Yeah. You would just click. Yeah. You would just click attachments and you click upload new files and find that file that you're attaching for them. So I probably have a bunch of random things in here. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I'll probably just pull the Monroe logo. just to show you. So I just chose that file. I can name it whatever you want. So I can call it, I don't know, site plan. Sorry, I forgot what Misty said. A site plan review or something. Document, can upload it. And then you can upload it, and basically it comes up here. And actually, if I refresh, I think it'll bring over the upload. What will happen is anytime you upload an attachment, the applicant that's associated with it, they will get a notification letting them know that the staff has uploaded something. So you can see here, it's just I think this is just actually the planning department's logo, but it just shows that I uploaded a document. It was uploaded by Tony Tester at this time. I'm a few hours back from you guys because I'm on the West Coast. So that's why it's showing 8:37. But that's on their end, they'll be able to see, they'll get a notification in email actually that an attachment's been loaded for them to review. So I would recommend if you're attaching any files, you'll want to also put a comment in to remind them as well of just letting them know if you have any notes about it. You could have also, like when you're uploading a file, and I'll just choose that Monroe logo one more time. You can also put something in the description to explain what you've done here. So that's another way to do it. I'm going to recommend that you use the comment section to remind them to review the attachment. They will automatically get an email letting them know that. But I would recommend doing a comment as well. I'll show you in a bit where that is. So looking, at this. Oh,
Could I
sorry.
ask one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Can we upload an attachment and then edit it in this system?
If you need to edit it in the system, what you would do is, so let's say, for example, I uploaded the site plan review document. I'd click on these three dots and I click upload new version. So that's usually the best way to do it. You could technically delete it and just upload a new one if it's just like completely the wrong file. Like you put a site plan review for another location. But I would typically recommend if it's the same thing, but you've just made some edits, you would click upload new version. That way you can kind of just keep track of the different versions you guys have uploaded.
So
But if
you
it's
can't store one in there and reuse it for different plans. You have to make a new one on your desktop and download it.
I guess, what do you mean by, you mean you would have the same document for multiple applications?
Right. Sometimes the project scope is the same. Like if it's a single family on a basement, they can just change the name of the applicant and the address and use the same plan review because it's like almost the same prints. So is there anywhere to store one of those inside this system and just pull from it, or do they have to store that on their desktop and just download it?
They'd have to store it from their desktop. They wouldn't necessarily have to, as long as it's saved somewhere on your desktop. I guess you're not technically downloading it. It's already, if it's saved, then you'd click upload new files and just choose that file that from your desktop or from whatever other folder that you have there. But there's not a place to you're not necessarily storing something to pull from. It's going to just pull from whatever you have saved on your computer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to the applicant and the location record just to explain things a bit further. So on the applicant record, why this is helpful to look at is you can click view profile and you can see, if they've applied for anything else. If you think it's relevant to know, oh, they had a commercial building, and let's say, for example, they had a commercial accessory or a demolition permit as well. Sometimes it might help, and you can click on the link and see a little bit more. I don't think this particular applicant that people have been testing with has anything else, but it could be helpful to see. One thing you could think about as well is you can also add flags to an applicant if you have a note that you want to keep track of, if someone's part of a particular property group that's relevant that you want to keep track of, or if it's somebody who's been like a delinquent, like they haven't paid fees and you want to just keep that in mind to be like extra careful with them. The public doesn't see the flags that you've associated with them, so that's something you can just know that all staff will see it, so just keep that in mind. The location record as well, this will be really helpful. You can see when I click on the location record, there's a little flag icon for, I think, nearly all of Monroe County's addresses. You'll have a flag associated, and you can see there's things about their township, some zoning information as well, their APN number, their assessor parcel number here, and a quick look into where it is. If we have that information, you'll see the property owner information. This gives you kind of a quick view of what's like part of that location. If I click view location over here, it'll show me is it'll show me some more information about the location. It looks like we said that it's vacant, it's a platted lot. You'll also see if there were multiple applications. So you can think of it two ways. Like when we're looking at applicant record, an applicant could technically apply for multiple permits across multiple locations if Tim owns multiple houses. And then also with a location record, people may have changed ownership, where maybe Tim applies for a permit this month, but then he sells his house to somebody else later in the year. Looking at the location record itself will just show you, okay, across any applicants, we just want to know, are there any other applications that any records that we have associated with that location. So these two things are just to give you some more information about the record. It's not, you'll still obviously be reviewing the form details and what they provided to you, but it can just be extra information that you'll understand as well. Scrolling down over here to timeline. So this speaks to the timeline, the workflow that we've set up. So what we've done when we've set up each of these record types is we've said, okay, on a commercial building application, we would expect that you need to have a review by Wendy and Misty first, and then it would go next to Jim, and then it would go next to planning, and so on. Each record type has been set up specifically for what the team said is required of each different application. There may be some extra steps that are required on the commercial side that aren't required on the residential side. So all of this has been basically preset in terms of what should come up. So by default, the system will bring up a bunch of steps that come up to start off with. And then after, so it'll bring up everything. And then there's also an option under the details, under all the staff sections, that there may be certain things that if staff clicks on to it, it will require additional steps. I might actually click into a residential one instead. We'll use the one that we were looking at on yesterday's training. Yeah, just because the other one, it looks like when we're testing, for some reason, stormwater was the first step. I know usually the first step is going to be building intake review with Wendy or Misty, and then it goes to plan review. And basically each of these steps has been assigned to someone already. The reason this particular application has a stormwater review is because what we were testing yesterday is we basically, if we were to check off health, if Wendy or Misty checked off that a health department or stormwater review was needed, it will add that extra step and assign it to the right person. So there's kind of different things depending on the record type of like staff sections that we've added that basically adjust what the workflow and the timeline looks like. You can see for this one, it looks like the first step, Wendy was assigned for it. And then this one, if I hover over that circle, that's what I was talking about with the profile. If you don't put a picture, it just shows your initials. So this one, it shows that the plan review went to Doug, and then the planning review went to Tony, which was my tester account. Health department went to Ryan, and then Connie for highway stormwater approval. So each of these things has kind of been preset already of how we've determined with Jackie and the team of who it needs to go to. I want to click into one of these steps just so you guys can see for this, like for example, this planning department review step. So you can see if once I click into the step, it shows me, okay, Tony's the one assigned to it. And it shows that I have these buttons that say complete, reject, or skip. So when I'm looking at it, like, let's say, for example, I'm looking at Ryan's step and it's not assigned to me, I will not see those options because I'll only see these complete, reject, skip options if it's been assigned to me. If it's not assigned to me, it will not appear as an option for me. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. For the most part, you'll really want to keep all of your workflow steps set as left as in progress unless it's truly been ready to go. The reason being is, I went over with the team yesterday, is you really don't utilize reject and skip too much. If you use reject, what that means is it stops the application in place and doesn't allow like anything else to happen. The only time you really would use reject is if like the applicant reached out to you and they were like, you know what, actually we're not pursuing construction on this project anymore, or we're just not doing anything with it. Or if for whatever reason, like, you know, what they're requesting to do, like absolutely the county's not going to approve at all. You can click reject, but it's kind of a stark thing. So you really want to only utilize if someone's like not pursuing work with this anymore. Skip, you would only use if like, for whatever reason, maybe there's some special circumstance where like, oh, in this case, looking at, you know, the application, it doesn't actually require a planning department review. I can skip it if I think like really, I don't need to be involved and it's not applying to me. However, for the most part, you'll really want to leave any steps assigned to yourselves. If if you haven't fully approved it yet, you'll want to leave it in progress. This is where you can communicate back and forth with the applicant, and you can put, you know, the square footage looks off. Can you please confirm that, X square footage is the right amount for this project? And you can click comment, and this would basically send an email to the applicant letting them know, hey, we have a question about it. So instead of just like rejecting them because something isn't right, you actually would want to leave it in progress, leave a comment, and then wait for them to respond. And so let's say I left this comment, they confirmed everything and they explained everything and it looked good. It would make sense for me to complete it from that point. You could also use internal notes. This is where you would use notes to tag other staff members. So I can put the @ symbol and say, at Misty, can you take a look into this or something? Something looks off. You can look up different staffers. I can look up Jim. For testing, I'm just going to look up Jackie, and I'm going to say, oh, sorry, I just typed it twice. At Jackie, can you please look into this? Not sure if planning needs to be involved in this project or something like that. I can leave a note, and then so you can use basically, if it comes over as yellow, that's an internal note. If you put into internal note, it's yellow. If you put into comment, this is actually where the public would get a notification right away. So just be kind of careful and mindful of that. You can see as well, because I put in a comment, there's a little message icon that it shows that there's a message on here. So sometimes if there's an application that doesn't really require sorry, this update part is coming through. If there's something that doesn't require any comments, and there's no back and forth, you can see for this step that was assigned to Ryan, there's no message bubble because there's no comments or internal notes. Because I see this little message bubble next to my user profile, it's telling me that there's some messages. So that's sometimes helpful if you're doing like a plan review or something and you're like, it seems like something's off. It might be something that another staffer's already asked the applicant about, or maybe there's already been some staff communication about it. So if I click into this, like this planning department plan review, I can see that I asked Jackie to look into this, and then she responded that she'll look into this. So you can kind of reference it back to see if there's any communication. But let's assume, this looks great. I've commented back to the applicant. I've, attached any new files that were needed that they need to review. This is really would be the place where I'd probably put a comment, please note that, the county just shared a plan review file with you. Please review that and let us know if you have questions or something like that. So that's what I was saying. Like when you upload an attachment, they automatically get an email. But if you want to be extra sure that they're actually reading it as well, you can leave another comment and let them know, hey, reminder, you should have already got an email about this. Please review it. These are our comments. These are things that we want you to check on. So just something to kind of think about. And then you would basically mark this step as complete, and then it'll just show that it's been complete. So a question that came in from the team earlier today was, what are kind of all the different colors? The green color refers to if something's been completed. So it will show that step has been marked as complete by a staff member. If something's still in progress, it'll show it in blue. And then if something is in gray, that means it's not yet active. So we basically preset it with the building team in terms of the order of what steps are needed. For example, all of these reviews need to happen before the applicant pays their fees, before they're issued a permit, before the inspections happen, before the certificate of occupancy is generated. So there's all these steps that are kind of predetermined. And how we have it set up, why this is grayed out, is because we've said the building review, the final building review that Wendy and Misty will do, this will not happen until all of the previous reviews have taken place. So there's some workflow steps that we have set that they happen at the same time, like a health department and highway department approval will happen at the same time. But some of these other steps are dependent on, like, Wendy and Misty aren't going to do the final building review until all of the previous steps have been marked as complete. So that's kind of why it's showing in different colors, and that's why you're seeing them in different phases. I'm going to have us actually pause and see if anyone has any initial questions about what this record page looks like and kind of how to navigate it before we get deeper into inspections.
I did just put a question in chat,
Mhm.
just basically, is there a legend to show what these colors mean? Because say if I get into this program a month from now, I'm not going to remember what green means, blue means, gray means.
Mhm. There isn't a legend, Lisa, but there is like a help article in the resource center that you could just bookmark on your page or look it up when you remember. You can look it up and it'll tell you what the colors mean. I guess, to be honest, I mean, the colors are more a visual thing to help you differentiate, but you can hover over where
Okay.
it says like completed, it says in progress. So you don't have to feel like it has to be memorized by any means. It's just like an extra visual thing to help you split it up, in your mind a little bit easier, but you could pull up a help article that shows it.
That's
But
fine.
there's not a legend directly. Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm. Another thing to point out is depending on your user access, some users will have the ability to add what we call ad hoc steps, where if you noted that any extra workflow steps are needed outside of the norm, maybe there's an extra approval that needs to go to Jim or Jackie or somebody else, or there's an extra document that needs to be issued, anything like that, you can kind of play around with, not necessarily play around, but you have the option of adding extra steps if needed, like if there's an extra, I don't know, building official approval that's needed for whatever reason, I can assign it to Jim or something, and I can add it. Depending on my user access, I may be able to add this. So that's an option here. I'm going to have us actually quickly talk about inbox and then come back and then go directly to inspection. So at the inbox page here, so when we're looking at the inbox page, this is what I talked about, was the first page you see when you log into the software, and it's customized per person. So because I've been testing a bunch of stuff for the past few months, there's a lot of stuff here. You likely maybe won't have as many, especially if you're kind of keeping up with it, but you can see that I'm assigned to, my tasks include electrical inspections, staff site visit for appeal of admin determination, an admin review. There's a bunch of different things. So if I were to click into each one of them, it shows me on the right kind of a quick bird's eye view of what that is in regards to. It shows me like what this is, an electrical inspection that I'm assigned to for a commercial electrical permit. The applicant's name is Jackie. It's on a Leonard Springs Road location. And I can click open task to see a little bit more about what I'm due to do on that particular inspection in this case. You can also, under inbox, you can filter it by different types of tasks that you have. And you can also look at newest or oldest first. So this is kind of a nice place to look at. This is essentially where each user will see it, like this is like your list of anything that's been assigned to you. So for some of you, if you only work with inspections, you're only really going to see inspections. But if you're involved with some inspections, some plan reviews, you may see a combination of it. So every user's profile is different depending on what you're involved in. This will be like your queue to look in, and it will appear in here until you've marked it as complete and it's been completed in the system. So that's kind of one way to see what you've been assigned to. I'm actually going to go over here to inspect and talk more specifically about inspections and what this will look like. So this will show you each user. By default, it shows yourself. So it says me, and it shows for today, but that's by default. It shows me these are the 3 inspections that I have assigned to myself. It also shows that I have like missed inspections. There's a bunch of stuff I've tested from like late last year, so that's why you're seeing some stuff. It's just to remind you that you were assigned to something and you didn't go on it, or you didn't take any action on it. I don't think this would happen as much as with you guys, where there would be an inspection from July that wasn't done, but that's just because I've done some testing. So I can click back to schedule. And so this basically shows me, all the inspections I have. Depending on what you're interested in doing, you can also rearrange the order of the inspections in terms of if there's a better time that you want to go to something. I don't know, and Wendy and Misty, you can probably let me know. Right now, when you guys schedule your inspections, do you give the applicant a time range, or you more just do you give them a specific time, or more like just that someone will come out that day? Oh, Misty said by time. Okay. So if you want to, sorry, if Wendy and Misty set a time, you'll see it as well. For this example, I just didn't put any times, but I'll edit this and put in a specific time just so you guys can see what it looks like. I'll come back to this page, by the way, because I know I'm going a little bit quick. So what it does is, like, because I set a time to this, it shows there's a clock icon. It shows this one's a specific timed ones, and this is untimed, meaning these are all the ones that we haven't set a time to that maybe for whatever reason, maybe it's a last minute inspection that they're trying to get in that you may have time to do if you have time that day. So maybe that's why there's not a time associated, but it'll kind of split it up. If you want to look at other inspectors, you can look up their name here, or you can look at a group of people. So I can look up, we basically have put inspectors into groups. So you could also look up and see, I want to look at anyone that's assigned to the commercial building inspectors group. I think there's not much that we really have tested because everything's really on my own testing environment. But you can look up other people, but by default, you'll see the active list of things that are assigned to you. You can look up other users, or you could look up a group of people if you want to just know, oh, what do we have assigned on the residential side versus commercial side, and just see it as a whole. Right now, how we have it set up in the system is that applicants are not allowed to request an inspection directly through the system. They would have to work with the front office to make sure that's scheduled out. Jackie, just to check in with you, did you get confirmation in terms of whether the applicant will be asked to call in to schedule in, or if staff will reach out to them to schedule an inspection directly?
It should be added now in the workflow to tell them to call for an inspection for building
Okay.
department apps.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Jackie. So what would happen is the applicant really only sees that inspection is available to be scheduled by the team when all the previous steps have been completed. So if you haven't even gotten your permit issued, if you haven't even gotten your plan review done, the system won't tell you that you're ready for inspection because we assume those things need to be done first. So what would happen, just as I was confirming with Jackie, is when all of those appropriate steps have been completed and they're doing and then they're due to start to schedule their inspection, they'll see a prompt that basically tells them that they can call the front office to schedule the inspection. The front office will schedule it and then start assigning it to different people. So that's when you'll see that's when this list per inspector will start getting filled out. Right now, I might actually, so I think this is actually good to have kind of a combination of this one is a specific time that was specified, and then these weren't specified with the time. So you can kind of rearrange the order as you'd like. So as an inspector in the field, you just would be pulling up this site on your device, Monroe County in.viewpointcloud.io, and you'd click on inspect and basically look at your inspection schedule for the day. You can kind of rearrange it, if some of those things aren't timed. If you'd like. I think it sounds like from Misty that most of everything is going to be specifically set with a time for you to see. And if you click into the residential inspection, that will take you to where you need to go. I'll come to that in a bit. This is showing me right now my inspection schedule for today, but I could theoretically look into the future and see what the rest of things are scheduled out. I don't know how far in advance that you guys typically schedule things, but you could reference the future if you'd like. You can also sync this with your calendar. If you have a Google Calendar or just a calendar on your phone or something that you want to sync it out to, just keep in mind what it will do is if you click sync, it'll basically bring over your inspection schedule into your calendar, but it doesn't take from your calendar into here. So it just kind of pushes things out. You also have the option where you can print your schedule too, if that's helpful. Some communities like to have it printed if they go into the front office every morning. For other communities, inspectors kind of just go straight from home. So depending if you want to, you can also print your schedule. You'll also see an option to basically, if you were to have more untimed inspections, you'd probably use our route optimization, which kind of helps you choose the best option. But for by and large, because you guys are sticking to timed inspections, you probably won't use that as much because the route optimization just basically helps if you're to click up here. It just basically, if you didn't pick a specific time, the system would try to choose what's the most efficient route within the county in terms of which ones you should go to first, but don't think they'll be utilized as much for you guys since you'll have a specific times here. So let's use this example where I'm an inspector, I'm assigned to this residential building inspection. I'm going to click onto it. That's my first one of the day. And I'm going to see that it basically directly takes me to a residential building inspection, and it shows me over here on the right. This information has actually been updated, just like Jackie said. Right now, it's going to say something like that they need to call instead of requesting directly online. It'll give them some kind of notice there instead. In this case, it'll show you it's assigned to me. Inspection date is for today at 2 o'clock, and there's just a note that this is for residential building. So if I'm an inspector, what I would do, and I'll just kind of show you before we start, is you can see there's a list of inspection types. This is all information that Jim and his team help provide of just like that checklist that you guys have physically right now. And we're kind of replicating it so that you can use it in the field. So I'm going to click begin inspection. And you'll see, so this is assuming I'm out in the field. So some people do this while they're, probably the easiest way is to do it while you're doing your inspection and just have your device with you. I know some inspectors like to just fill it out after they finish their inspection when they're back in the car. So it just depends on what you guys prefer. But essentially you have the option, depending on, you know, that particular project, you can click into any of these inspection types and basically mark whether you pass, fail, or partial it. So let's say, for example, I went out to this residential building inspection, and the only thing that they had ready was to review. Everything else wasn't ready or applicable, was foundation and framing. So I can put something, let's say foundation is not up to code. We'll need to fix, you know, XYZ or something. I could upload a photo that would show what the inspection what that foundation looks like, that it looks like a mess and it's just not up to code. And you can take an image of that, and I could put fail. I could then go to framing and say, let's see, we can say the framing, and actually, let me make sure. So for the framing, I could say that this looks good. I'm not sure why it's attaching the same. Oh, I see. It might just be attaching the photo to the whole thing. Sorry. So this, I could say this looks good. Framing is passed. I'm going to click pass here. You can see over here on the left, so it shows that the foundation is marked as failed, framing is passed. And then if some of the things are unapplicable, like let's say there's not any sewer work on this or anything like that, you can just leave it. You don't have to do anything. So let's say you went out there for a first inspection and we're just going to pass the framing and fail the foundation. So I'm going to click complete inspection. So that's assuming I went out today. And so what that does in the system is it basically tracks that we failed this and we've passed this, and everything else has been non-inspected. If I scroll down here, it'll show that there's an inspection history now, that on January 12th, Tony Tester went out for an inspection. I'm going to click into it, and it basically shows a report. So the applicant would actually have the ability to see this report, and they could print it out if they need to share it with anybody else that's part of the construction on this project. And it shows that the foundation's not up to code, the framing looks good though. It's basically just saving that for them. They could print that report out on their end, and they'll just have access to it all. And then let's assume that we went out, probably they're not going to be able to fix it same day, but let's assume in that case that they said that, okay, we know what we need to fix with foundation, we're going to go out again. This is when they would reach out to the front desk, and let's say, so then Wendy and Misty would schedule it out and say, you know, ready for foundation reinspection or something. They could put a note, and that just is helpful for you to see. So I'm going to click confirm. So now if I go into inspect, it's going to show that I have a new I'm going back to the Union Valley Road address. It says they're ready for foundation reinspection. So I'm going to click into that. And again, you're probably not going to do it same day, but I'm just doing that for this example. I'm going to click begin inspection, and I'm going to say they fixed everything. You know, foundation looks good now. I'm going to click pass, and it shows previous result failed, current result is pass. And then if I see anything else when I'm out there that applies, let's say the footing looks good, I can pass that. I'm going to pass electrical just so you guys can see. And then I'm going to click complete inspection. What's going to happen is now it's all going to say pass because we've updated it so that it all says pass now. And this is just to give you quick reference into what's done. So essentially what you'll be doing as an inspector is, depending on the type of project that you're looking at and what's required of it that you know of, you will keep basically doing inspections on the project until you've deemed that there's no further inspections that are needed for the initial residential building inspection. So let's say, for example, this project, I've finished, and you can see under the inspection history, it'll have both of the inspections. Again, it's probably not going to be on the same day, but you'll see kind of the newest one at the bottom for you to reference, and kind of if they need to print out a report or anything, you can reference that for them. They'll be able to see it on their online portal as well, but you can have quick access to it, especially if, like, you know, let's say Jim does an inspection, but then he's not able to do the reinspection and somebody else does it. It's helpful to just look back and you can see any that previous inspector's notes. But let's assume for this inspection, let's say, you know, based on the project scope and the type of work they're doing, these are the only 4 inspection types that are needed for this initial inspection, and that we're pretty much good to go, that we want to sign off. So once you've decided and concluded that there's no further initial inspections that are needed, that's where, as an inspector, what you'll want to do is mark this inspection step as a whole as complete. You do not want to click this until you've completed all the inspections. So like if I had done that first inspection where we failed certain things, you don't want to click complete yet, because we've done an inspection, but we're not complete overall with the building inspection as a whole. So you want to make sure to keep that in mind. I don't know how often you guys will go out. I guess maybe that's a question for the team if someone can answer. On like, let's say it's a single family residential building inspection, on average, how often will you go out? How many inspections will you go out to before you feel like it's completely signed off on? Is it usually done kind of with one inspection, or do people usually take a few to get everything right? Misty said all. So maybe just it depends. It's pretty variable. Sometimes they get it right. Sometimes they're a mess and you guys have to go out a few times. And if that's the case, I mean, it might be a combination. Maybe sometimes if they get everything right to begin with, then you're clicking complete. But you want to be extra sure that the CO is issued after all inspections pass. Oh, important to, building, which I assume is Jim and the team, said about 5-ish. And then Misty said the C of O is issued out after all inspections pass. So yeah, that's important to think about as well. So I don't think, from what I've heard from other communities, typically people don't have it all together on that first inspection. And from what Jim's saying, it's probably around 5-ish that people take. So you just want to make sure, again, that once you click complete, this will get the application closer to getting a certificate of occupancy. So we just want to make sure that any of the steps that happen that are contingent on an inspection being completed, just know that you want to be extra sure when you click complete here. So you'll kind of keep doing inspections until you've determined that there's nothing else needed with this, and that's when you would click complete on this page. So you're kind of just going back and forth. One thing to kind of note is, so what I've been testing is I've been using it where all these inspections had been scheduled previously by the team. If for whatever reason you need to do an inspection right away and it hasn't been like properly scheduled in the system, and if it's not scheduled, it basically doesn't appear on your inspection list. If you need to just like do an inspection right away, you can actually click new inspection here and just do one right away. With if for whatever reason, like they fix something and you came right back and we didn't like formally schedule it, you could just click new inspection, pass a few things. That works as well. I think best practice for the most part is for them to reach out to the front office and for that to be scheduled and assigned to a certain person. But just know, if you click new inspection on that step, you could essentially record an inspection there. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Something to think about as well is, right now under each different type of inspection in the system, whether it's residential, commercial, we've basically preset with Jim and the team like what type of inspection types there are. So if you think of anything that would be helpful that you want to add that you guys will do pretty frequently, I think for the most part we just copied that checklist you guys currently have. But all of this is customizable. So if you have an idea of something you think would be helpful as you guys start testing, if you haven't already and you start testing this week and you have some ideas of other inspection types that you want to be added, of like, oh, we always want to put in, I don't know, something else that might be applicable. This is pretty comprehensive. Let Jackie know, and we can work with Jim just to make sure we want to add that. And then we would add it across the board so that everyone would see it. So just something to keep in mind, that this is all something the team has preset, but we could adjust like the names of these things or add some other ones if you think that it could be helpful to see. So just something to keep in mind. I'm gonna pause. Oh, what happens if you click complete and need to go back? So once you click complete on a step, you basically once you click complete on the step, you can't edit that step further. So I mean, it's happened before. Some people just make a mistake, especially in the first kind of few weeks. If you were to accidentally click complete, and let's say let's say the plumbing inspection hadn't been done yet. So I'll click complete here. What happens now is because this is marked as complete, the step, it doesn't allow me, if you see there's no options that says like new inspection or schedule. So let's say plumbing was the only remaining one that was needed. What you'll want to do in that case, whether, and I'm not sure if that would be directly the inspector would be doing, or you guys would prefer to have like the front office do, you'd want to add a new inspection step to accomplish it. So once you click complete, it really kind of locks it. You can kind of, you can still manage it if you make that mistake. I can click into inspection and say plumbing inspection. It's just a little bit more manual if you forget to do that. And I'm going to assign it to myself. I'm going to click add. And then the only thing is, because this isn't like preset, it just means that you have to manually add that inspection type. So I know that there's one called plumbing. So I'll just choose plumbing, and then you can kind of fill it out from there. So best practice is to really make sure to not complete it, to mark it as complete if it's not truly complete. But if you forget to do so, it's not the worst thing. You can still add an ad hoc option. Let's see, there isn't an option to reopen it. The system only allows you to complete it and add something new if it's been missed. So that's why I added that plumbing inspection. So then they would add plumbing, and then you have the option you can see here to say new inspection. New inspection, again, just a reminder for this button, it just means that like you aren't scheduling something, you're just going right away. If you schedule it, the other option is if you click schedule. Once you click schedule, what it will change to is, instead of saying new inspection and schedule, the option is begin inspection. So that's kind of the difference on this page. And you can see here as well, you'll have the option for each of these inspection steps, similar to like plan reviews. You have the option to do comments and internal notes. Maybe you leave a note for Jim saying like, you know, something's off about these inspections. Maybe you leave a comment to the applicant letting them know, hey, you know, you failed the footing inspections like 3 times, like please make sure to have this done before we go out again. So you can share some information with them there. It just kind of depends on what might be relevant to that project. So I think the main kind of functionality that all inspectors will be dealing with directly is looking at their inspection page, and this will be organized in terms of times and when you're scheduled out, depending how the front office kind of looks at your workload. And then once you're assigned to it, you just click directly into that inspection, and then click begin inspection. And again, it's up to you, and it may be a question for Jim to think about. Like I said, some communities like to have it set up so that the inspections, let the inspectors kind of do it while they're out in the field with their device. Other inspectors like to put in all their notes and their images and everything once they're back in their car. That can be helpful too, especially if you're in an area with not that much service. So sometimes what people will do is they may take images on their device, and then once they get back into an area with service, they will then type in all of their notes. So you can do it while you're out on the inspection, or you can do it after, just depending on what you prefer. There's no kind of strict guideline into how that's being done. What I wanted to show you guys as well, so that kind of shows one piece of inspections. And if we go into Explore here, for the most part, I don't want inspectors to worry too much about all the different report options. You can definitely play around with it, and you have options to see what reports there are. We focus on that a lot with administrators. I think what to call out that's helpful for you guys is to see this Explore tab over here. This speaks to any of the reporting that we have in the system. So under the inspections section, there's a way for you to see active inspections. You can just see all the projects. This basically says this shows all the projects that have open inspections on them, like they're ready to do inspections, whether they've been scheduled or not. You'll be able to see them on this page. You can filter it. You can see there's kind of a combination of there's residential building, commercial fire suppression. So you can see their next inspection is scheduled for a date. When was their last inspection? Who was it assigned to? We have a bunch of stuff we've been testing, so it's kind of all over the place. And under active inspections, if you're in building, you may see some planning stuff as well, like conditional use, staff visits from staff site visits for some planning stuff, so it'll be kind of mixed in. You have the option with this is if it was helpful for you to just see what everything is, or just curious, you can look under here, active inspections. You can also click edit, and you can filter it where, let's say, for example, you want to just see the build. I can go to general, I can go to building department. I just want to see everything that's assigned to, I don't know, let's pick, trying to think of what's the most common one that we have. The residential building. You can say specifically, I just want to see any of the active inspections, and that means any project, any record that hasn't marked their inspection as complete yet and it's ready to go. It'll show you all the residential building. You can play around and maybe I'll look commercial building, commercial demolition. You can kind of keep playing around with which record type you're looking across. You can also filter it. So let me go back and say I want to look at all building department. I can filter it and I say I want to just look at I want to, actually, let's do this. I want to look at all commercial accessory. There might not be any commercial building. And I can actually put a filter and say, I want to look at everything where the project cost is greater than 1,000. Obviously, it's probably going to be a larger amount because it's commercial, but I'm just kind of showing you examples. So you can kind of filter it further. There's two options. You can click once if you at a overview, you can always click on add a new filter, which you could filter by like what city that an inspection is in. You can search by like what type of when they were submitted. Can you filter by township? You may be able to, hold on, actually. You can look, let's see. You can. So it's just in a different place. Connie's questions, you can filter by township. Mostly everything else is kind of within, let me click into, if you click add new filter, you'd be able to type in like, I'm going to filter by city. Township's a little bit different because in the software, not every community we work with has a township. So actually the way you'd find that is you'd click on location flag, you click in township, and keep in mind as well, all those like flags that we were talking about that had zoning, that had township, that's all connected to the county's GIS map layers. That's where that's coming from. So you could put township and you can just type that in and kind of see what options are. Or you could technically put under location flags like Perry and it would show you. So then you can look under all in a particular township. There weren't that many to begin with, so it probably wasn't under Perry. But that's a way that you can filter by township. So that might be something just to kind of keep in mind for the team to make sure is if you want to filter by township, make sure to look up the filter's name as location flags first. So you can get there, it's just a little bit different than what you would automatically assume. So it would be under location flags. You can look up under township. And so you can basically build all these conditions that you have for it. Maybe, you know, in this case, I'm saying I want to look at all commercial building permits that have a project cost greater than 1,000 that are in Perry. So if something applies, it'll show up on this page. You can kind of keep building on it. The difference between add a new filter and add a new form filter is add a new form filter speaks to the specific questions that we've asked in the form. So like things like city, flag, maybe let's do date submitted. This means just like when did they submit their application? I want to say, I want to look at all applications that were submitted in the last 30 days. So you can put those are kind of the options of the add just a regular filter. The project cost and things that we're asking the public to fill out, that is really what would be option as everything that would be under add a new form filter. So you could put, let me take some of these out so it's easier to read. If I click add new form filter, it basically is showing me all the questions that we have asked them. So I can say, let's see, I think we have one question maybe about type of work. Yeah, so I can put, I want to just see all the active inspections for commercial industrial. So you can really play around with it a lot. You can say commercial industrial and, or multifamily. You can play around with a lot. So I don't know for the inspectors how much you guys will be using some of this active inspections report, but I want to show you kind of what's possible. You can also play around with the columns. This just speaks to what actually appears on here. Some important things to think about that I was telling everyone in the training yesterday as well is that just make sure to note that if you save any report, that any new report that you've created, it will only save in your account if you made any kind of new reports. If you want to share it with the team, and actually here I'll put I'll call this commercial building active inspections. I'll call this report that. I'm going to save that. Oops, sorry. It's going to have me double save. Sorry. Active inspections. So what it does is it only saves on my account. So if you wanted to share this like report that you thought was super useful with the rest of the team, you'll need to click actions and click share report. You can also export the report if you need an Excel file. I don't know if you really need to do so, but that's an option. You can also delete it if you don't think it's helpful anymore for you. If you create any report, any like custom report on your own, again, it's only going to show in your profile unless you click share. And if you make the report that it's specific to just building, just make sure that if you can't find it, like let's say later, if I was kind of playing around and I'm in all departments, it's not going to appear because it's only going to appear in the department that I saved it under. So it's under building department. So that's kind of when the active inspections could be helpful. That's maybe some ways that you want to play around with it. It can be helpful to see like also if somebody's like out of the office and you want to just kind of cover for them, you can see, okay, well, Kirk's been assigned to some of these, let's make sure to reschedule to somebody else. You also have the option to look at inspection results, maybe more helpful for Jim than like just everybody, but what can be helpful is as you guys start doing more inspections in the system, will start tracking like what passed and what failed. So you could like technically pull up a report that shows like, oh, how many out of all the footing inspections, how many like failed footing inspections do we have this month? And if you do so I'll do that. I'll say I'm going to add a filter for inspection type. Inspection type is footing. And I'm going to say I want to look at another filter, and I want to say I only want to look at the result for ones that have failed. So sometimes it's just helpful to know this, and other communities have used it as like a training opportunity that like, if you notice everybody's failing footings, do we need to have a conversation with some of the local contractors so they just understand, like why the county is being stricter with footings, why they're not passing. Because ultimately, you guys don't want to go out all the time, especially if it's something that are quick fixes that they should have been prepared for. So the inspection results report, it's just helpful for you to kind of see at a glance, like what people are failing, like what people are passing, just to give you some insight. You don't technically have to do anything with it, but it can be helpful to see. I'm going to pause right there, and those are pretty much all the things I wanted to go over with those that are involved with inspections. I'm going to actually answer because I know that Jackie received a few questions from Kirk earlier today. So I'm going to answer some of these, and then I'll have kind of it open for the team to just ask questions overall. So I'm going to go through kind of the list that Kirk shared. So he asked, what can the public see? Can they see other people's info? So currently, Kirk, we have the public search turned off. So the public cannot currently look up other people's info. They can only see the applications information in regards to stuff that they've applied for themselves. The county has the option to turn it on for the public to see like other people's applications and other things on locations. But right now we have it turned off. I would say most communities have it turned off. And those that decide to turn it on, sometimes will turn it on gradually later. So just something for you to be aware of. Right now, public search is turned off, but you do have the option, like the county can make that decision with Jackie if you want to have turned on later. The next thing that Kirk asked about is whether you can copy and paste. So you can copy and paste. You're using basically a browser. So if you need something that you want to copy and paste, it would just be like how you're handling it through whatever device you're using, whether it's a phone or a tablet, however you're entering. So you can still copy and paste. Will you be able to pull up info, upload, download info if you don't have any service? So that's what I kind of recommended. If you have it open on your device already, and like before when you had service previously, you'll still be able to see it, but you won't be able to like mark something as pass or fail if you don't have a connection. That will probably be coming later. We have kind of in the works, probably not until like later this year, to develop like a specific mobile app just for inspectors. Right now, you just be logging into the employee site on a browser, like opening up your Google Chrome or Safari. Google Chrome is what we work best out of. So that's, I would say, if you don't have, I would make sure that you have, that page open for your inspection before, especially probably your inspect page of what your list is. before you get to that location, just so you have it ready, especially if you're expecting not to have service there. And then if you don't have service, I would probably just enter in that information, take some images if you need to take some notes on your device, and then enter it into the system once you get service. But that should be it. Does the system give driving directions? It doesn't give driving directions. It will just basically show you what locations you have, and you'll see kind of a little view of your route of which ones you're going to, but it doesn't directly give driving directions directly through. You'd still, I mean, you could technically copy and paste, I think, probably the address and put it into your Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you're using. Kirk said, can I see where my other inspectors are when they are in the field logged in? Oh, sorry, we just got a question. Do you have any advice for streamlining the process to connect this permitting software to our existing asset management software, especially for final inspections where we would take over new infrastructure, for example? I'm not sure about that. Jackie, maybe that's something you could look into and see if that makes sense. I'm not sure about that exactly. I haven't heard anything about kind of asset management software before. But Kelsey, maybe after our call, check in with Jackie and just see, kind of explain what you're thinking. And then just want to make sure Jackie kind of gets an idea about that, and she can kind of check with me based on what she understands to see if we'd be able to help in some way. But I'm not sure looking at it kind of offhand. Okay, sorry, going back to Kirk's list. He has a question that says, can I see where my other inspectors are, where they are in the field or logged on? Yes, maybe not exactly in the way you're thinking. You can look up under, when you go to the inspect tab, you can look up the other user. What it will show you actually is it will just show you the inspections that they have left that they haven't marked as complete yet. Technically, what you could do as well, Kirk, if you just want to see kind of what they've completed, you can look at inspection results at a bird's eye view, or you could create a report that would show you inspections that have been marked as complete. You can set up a report that way. Kind of probably the faster way, if you just want kind of a quick view, is to look at inspection results just to see, hey, what are the ones they've completed for the day? You can just look at the date here, or you can look them up under inspect and pull it through, look up their name or the group of inspectors as a whole, and see what inspections they have left. It won't test. I think maybe what you're looking for is that you would see that like it would cross out 2 inspections and show that they have 3 remaining. It'll just show the ones that they haven't they haven't gone to yet. If the permit is expired, will it still be active, able to schedule? If the permit is expired, will they be active? No, they won't be set as active, and they won't be able to schedule it as well, because there won't be any kind of inspection step that will appear, and only staff is able to schedule anyways. And if someone's just to call in at random, try to schedule an inspection, Wendy and Misty would be able to pull up and the record. And I should probably pick something that is not right of way. Maybe this electrical permit would be fine. They would be able to pull it up and see that it's expired and know like we're not going to schedule it. So they don't have the ability to directly schedule something on an inspector schedule. Also asked, Kirk asked about the different colors. Again, the colors are really just more like a visual thing, so it's easier to kind of separate it in your mind, but you don't have to remember exactly. Green means completed, blue means in progress, and then gray means that it hasn't been done yet. One thing I might actually show you guys while I'm going through Kirk's questions is what the public facing side looks like. So I'm going to click login and log into my test account on the public side and show you kind of what their view looks like, just so you guys are familiar if you haven't been testing already, haven't been getting a look at it. So let's see, I'm going to try to see. So I have a bunch of stuff in here, so hopefully people aren't applying for that many applications. But you can see basically here, I have my dashboard, shows me all these messages. So I can click on messages, and this would show me all of the messages I received from staff. I would get an email anyways, but if I want to consolidate, oh, these are all the messages that I received. I received a message that like my site plan looks like it was missing and I need to resubmit something. Actually using this is probably a good example. So this is a test residential building permit that we submitted. So this is what the public sees. They can see each of these step names, but they can't take action on it. They can see that these steps were completed by staff. They can see that, the initial building reviews are done, but the planning review and health department approval isn't done yet. And they see in gray, these are kind of all the things that are set to happen next, but are not, they can't click on it and they can't do anything about it later. They can review their submission of like what they filled out about remodel, square footage. This is like a much older version that we did in the fall. So that's why it has all kind of this confusion here. And then under attachments, this is where they could review the attachments that they've provided as well as staff has provided. So that's kind of like the different view that you'll see. Kirk asks, is there a reminder to come back to an application if it is not completed or if we are waiting on something? If it's not completed, it will actually just stay in your inbox page until that inspection is marked complete, to just let you know, hey, we may have done some initial inspections, but they're not, like, that step is still open. So it'll still basically be in your inbox queue if it's not, if what you've been assigned to has not yet been completed. If you do add a new dropdown, will it only add to that permit application or does it add to the system for all permits and applications? I guess it depends on what type of dropdown field that you're looking to add. Let me click into one of these examples and we can talk about Kirk's question. Go into this. Now I'm going to go into a more recent example. Let's see. So I'm going to just click into this one at random. So when you're saying about adding a drop-down field, so you can always adjust someone's answer and that gets recorded. If you wanted to add a drop-down field, like a new question that isn't here, Kirk, you'd want to just check in with Jim because we kind of created this in conjunction with Jim. So if we wanted to make any changes to and add an extra field, you'd have to do so from the settings page and go to the record types. We want to make sure that that's been checked with kind of Jim and the greater team to make sure that's a drop-down question that makes sense. And what would happen is if you were to add a new question on the back end on the settings page, it would add for any new applications that are submitted after you've made that change. But definitely check in with the team to make sure. We tried to think of everything. If you guys catch anything this week too while you're testing, you're noticing like, oh, it'd be helpful if we ask this type of question on a commercial building permit, please let Jackie know and she'll kind of work with Jim and the rest of the team and Wendy and Missy just to make sure there's a reason we didn't add that, or maybe it would be helpful to add that. We definitely want your feedback, and that's why we've been kind of encouraging people to test as much as possible in the system. Let's see. Kirk's next question is there a way that we can add preloaded notes that can be put in a report? Not ready, install XYZ area unfinished, etc. There's not a way directly through the software just because it's like, it's a browser window that you have open up in like your Chrome. What you could do technically, I guess, Kirk, that might help is depending on what kind of device you're using, if it's like your cell phone or a tablet device, you could probably set up in your notes section, like your notes, your sticky note section, some common preloaded notes that you have so that when you're doing an inspection report, you could just copy and paste it. But there's not kind of like a holding place for your notes in the system. So like, let's say I'm gonna click resume inspection. So you could technically, put in comments. You can copy and paste it from your notes, but there's not a place where you could you could pull from a drop down of like notes. There is an option that we talked to Jim about that I don't think the team really wants to use for right now, but it's a possibility, Kirk, is in the future if you want, and there's a kind of a bunch of things in here from Fisher's that we use some of their templates, but essentially under the inspection types, these are all kind of the things that you're passing or failing. Let's click on, let's say for example, electrical. You have the option actually to put in checklist items. So what that would look like, and I'll kind of make it up so I can show you, Kirk. If there are things that that you kind of always check, and maybe it's less so, because I know you're asking about preloading notes. Only way you can really do that is kind of copying and pasting. But if for example, on electrical inspection, we always check these two things, we can actually set up specific checklist items so that you can also just like literally check in a check mark option that these two things look good or pass. So you could actually technically, if there's some things that you think are more detailed, and you want to kind of show how it would look in this way, I'll kind of show you. So now I've set up this one. Let me go in and show you what the checklist would look like. So I'm gonna actually remove electrical. I'm gonna re-add it because I've changed something to it. So what would happen now? If I were to click room inspection, do you see how when I click on electrical, it shows me these items? So you could put checklist items. That would be something to check in with Jim and the team overall. So it's kind of not exactly what you were looking for, but it may be something that could help. Is if you know certain things, you always check on one of these inspection types. You could set up checklist items so that every time we speak to these two things, the 100.1, what that refers to is the system gives you an option to put a code reference. And that's just for some communities where they have it specifically in the code, like, oh, when we're checking framing, this, it's coming from 102.5, that we are checking the specific item. So you don't need to utilize this. And I know Jim and the team were thinking about not utilizing this for now, just because it's a lot of change and kind of getting the team used to just passing and failing inspection types themselves. But something to think about is within each inspection type, you have the option of actually in the future setting up checklist items, if that makes sense. Does the system have a spell or grammar check? It doesn't have it directly in the system. You do have the ability where you can download it in your browser as well. Sometimes with Google Chrome, they'll put squiggly lines to let you know that you've misspelled something, but I don't think it's always consistent. There's a free plugin called a browser plugin called Grammarly that I know some communities have used, that it will help you spell and grammar check if you want to utilize it. That's something that and it's free, so I've heard some communities use that, but there's not something directly that's checking your spelling and grammar. The last question from Kirk is, can I bring up an active list for only me or one person? Yes, you definitely can. You can look at your inspect tab to show your specific inspections that are assigned to you for that day. You can look up other people, or you could also go to explore, go to active inspections and kind of filter, click edit to like filter it further to what you're specifically looking for. There's kind of two places that you can do so. Okay, I think I got all of Kirk's questions. Just opening it to the rest of the team. If you have any other questions, if you can put it into the chat, just so that not everyone tries to speak at the same time. Misty said that Steve's having some issues logging in after Zoom. Yeah, Steve, if you can, let me check really quickly just to see if Steve's been set up as a user. And then again, for the rest of the team, feel free to just put in questions into the chat. I just want to make sure that's not a few people trying to speak all at once over one another. Let's see. Steve. It looks like Steve has logged in. Misty, do you know exactly what Steve's issues with our login? Is it just like the password's not working? Because it looks like on my end that he's activated. So he should be able to get in. It won't let him on Chrome.
I think Steve forgot his password and tried to reset it and it didn't work.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. Hold on a sec. Let me go back. He did reset, still won't work. I can follow up with Steve after. Sometimes if he tries to reset the password too many times, it locks him out, but I'll follow up with Steve after. Any other questions from the team? I think the main thing really is just to have, if you get the chance today, I know everyone's schedule's pretty crazy, but if you have the time to really browse on the site and test. Oh, it looks like someone unmuted themselves. Go ahead.
I did. It's Wendy. I have a question. Since we are going to have to be doing inspections from our BDS system as well as this system, is there a way to put in like a blank time in this schedule? So we would like take up a time, or if we needed more time. Does that make sense?
Do you mean like you don't have like at that time you wouldn't have a time assigned yet and you just want to kind of block it out in some way?
Yes.
I guess in that case, you probably would just leave it untimed. Like for example, this one right here, I don't have a time listed on it. You'd be able to see basically that Tony is scheduled for something. It just doesn't block them out for a time. Like there's not like a calendar view that shows you that they're blocked out. It just shows you that they have something scheduled to them if you don't assign a time to it directly. I'm not too familiar with what BDS looks like, but I would say probably the best option is just to not assign a time to it. You could technically assign a time to it, but then change it. The only thing is if you assign a time to it, the applicant would see it. I mean, to be honest, it's not that I haven't heard it's that too large of an issue because I know oftentimes, like just because how priorities change, you might tell them, hey, we're going to come in the afternoon, but actually it's going to be morning instead. So the only thing to think about is they will see a time if you put one. But I guess if you don't have one ready, it's probably best practice just not to assign a time to it. You can just schedule it, but you're not actually putting a specific time that they're scheduled to go. See if this one actually, yeah. So like you have the option to click add time, and that just really speaks to like a start time. It's not like blocking off a set number of hours. So if you don't think that you have something ready, you could just leave this blank, or what you could do is in the note, maybe you could utilize that and say like maybe like tentatively scheduled for 1 to 4 p.m. Maybe that's a way to do it, like not putting a time, but you can put it in the note what you're thinking, and that does appear in the inspection schedule. So that might be a way to kind of get around with it. I probably just wouldn't choose a time and just not choose it at that time, because then they'll see it. You can even maybe just use notes instead. Anything else that you guys are thinking of? Any other questions from the team? Jackie, was there anything else that you think was important to the team to kind of emphasize? If not, we can kind of give everybody maybe like 15 minutes back and I can send out the recording. Just want to check in with you first before we kind of sign off.
Yeah, I think you covered everything. If there are more questions, certainly we'll collect those and we can try and answer those in the order that we get them.
Okay, that sounds good. And just to tell the team too, if you have questions similar to what Kirk did, which is great, is just kind of giving us a list of those questions if you have. It's an easier way for us to kind of knock them out. So we can definitely do that. So what I'll do after this training is I will send the recording to Jackie, and then she'll make sure to just share it with the team. So if you guys want to reference it, or if people who missed it want to reference it, and I will work with our support team to see to make sure Steve's login issues are working. So other than that, I think please continue practicing testing the system. Feel free to ask Jim, Wendy, and Misty just to get some insight into why we've set things up a certain way, just to get some feedback and let us know kind of what's working, what you have questions about. We really want to make sure that we answer as much as we can before we go live next week. Also knowing that next week you'll probably have a bunch of questions as well. So just kind of being patient with us, and hopefully the team's excited kind of for the transition and not too worried. But those jitters are kind of expected as well. So as long as you guys continue to practice and play around in the system, that's really what our recommendation is, to kind of ease the change in for the team. I will send out that recording, like I said, to Jackie, and then if you guys have any questions, let us know. Other than that, thanks for sticking with me. I know I said I was gonna try to go under 2 hours. So giving you back maybe 15 minutes or so. Have a good rest of the day. And thanks for kind of sticking with us for such a long training this afternoon. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rebecca. Did you want Steve to stay on after this, or do you want to just address that later?
I'll address it later because I think I might have to. Sometime when when someone locks themselves out, I have to reach out to support to
Oh.
make sure that like they unlock him and stuff. So
Okay.
it'll be through email. I'll copy you as well. So just so you're in
Sounds
the
good.
loop.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye.